I think the biggest challenge for me, honestly, was the mental side of it. So I got onto the mat and I was trying to like win at yoga. I was trying to beat yoga. So I felt like the deeper into the stretch, the more successful I was. And thankfully, we have the guidance of our yoga queen, Melissa, who has been gracious enough to communicate with us each week. And I thought she had a really good point where she said, to allow for the whole experience of yoga and basically to explore each moment with presence rather than expectation.
All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Adapt You podcast. We'll call it episode 1 of the Change 30 podcast series. We've got joining us today, of course, our co-host Brian Abbale. What's up, Brian? Say hello to your fans.
What's going on, everybody? Hello there.
All right, we also have Melissa Leach, who will introduce to you here shortly. So, Brian, please, why don't you inform the audience of our first 30-day challenge, what it is?
30-day challenge number 1. Derek and I chose yoga. We are going to fully immerse ourselves in yoga for 30 days straight. Week 1, we're going to hit 30 minutes a day. Week 2, 45 minutes a day. Week 3 and 4, 60 minutes a day. Derek and I have no idea how to perform yoga. We hope to learn quite a lot during this challenge, and I think we have one of the best possible coaches, mentors, yoga queens in the industry to help see us through. So I'm going to kick it over to Derek to actually introduce Melissa, and then we'll get into the challenge a little more deeply.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're super stoked to have on the show and to be we'll call yoga queen for our journey through the 30-day yoga challenge, Melissa Leach, who is a tier 3, which means that she's done over 1,200 hours, certified Baptiste power yoga influencer. She's an ERYT 500 certified trained, which basically means she teaches other yoga instructors. She's a YACEP and a Lululemon ambassador. Hope you get some sweet clothes for that deal, working with Lululemon. She's led programs and workshops for the US, including 200-hour teacher trainings, assisted workshops, anatomy workshops, and more. She co-created the Unstoppable training with the Baptiste Foundation, a training for educators, first responders, and public sector employees to teach yoga, breathing, and meditation to the youth. Melissa has an extensive fitness background, including certifications in bar, spinning, and a certification in teaching mindful yoga therapy to veterans with PTSD. She also participates in many different modalities of training, including powerlifting, metabolic conditioning, and the kettlebell sport, which is super intense for those who haven't done that. So it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you our yoga queen, Melissa Leach. Melissa, welcome to the Adapt You podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And I'm really excited to be here and to work with you guys over the next 30 days.
Awesome. You may regret that at the end of the 30 days, but I'm glad to see that you're on the positive note here on day 1, right, Brian?
Yeah, we might regret it too, Derek.
We might actually. So Brian and I, when we decided to pick we'll call it our first change 30-day challenge, as you maybe have heard from our first podcast with Brian and myself, we have a long list, and we're like, what do we need the most attention with, probably in the beginning? And let's pick something where we're going to come out of the gates that we know is going to be incredibly challenging for us. And we decided to pick yoga. So Brian and I, your typical 40-year-old, Brian, I'm maybe a little bit older than that, athletes, former athletes, but still think we're athletes, that are trying to hold on to our flexibility and maintain our youth as long as possible. And through our entire lives, we've done, your traditional baseball, basketball, football. I've done triathlon for many years. Brian's big into the CrossFit space, and we've done all different types of athletics. And one thing we have not done a good job of is incorporating yoga into our lives. And one of the many facets of yoga I know is it helps with mobility and it helps with flexibility. And Melissa, I know you're excited to learn this. You are probably dealing with two people that are the most inflexible people on the planet. I think Brian, the last time he's touched his toes was probably back when he was about 6 months old. Right, Brian?
Yeah, toddler. I did child's pose pretty good when I was like 1 or 2. That's the last I remember.
Yes. So we're definitely very, very inflexible. We have your traditional mobility issues. I mean, Brian, you want to kind of touch on some of them because I know we share the same ones. And I think most men out there who don't do yoga, most guys are lifting weights and doing the traditional, like, let's do chest and buys every Monday type of workout, are experiencing this. So Brian, want to hit them up with that?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, basically, so hamstrings, super tight, shoulders and lats, very tight, hip flexors, very tight. And it's a culmination of just the wear and tear on your body. You could get away with things in your teens and 20s and even probably in your 30s, but it ultimately starts to catch up to you, and you get some imbalance, we'll say. You got some stretched muscles and some constricted muscles, and it just creates imbalance and tightness in areas that aren't ideal. So we're hoping to loosen those things up. And I think yoga is a great way to attack that.
Yeah, I know that's just one component of yoga. While we have a meditation challenge that we'll be doing down the road, the mindfulness component of yoga, the breathing component of yoga, which we're going to have a whole breathing challenge. This kind of is going to be a great introduction to some of those other practices that I know I'm excited about that as well. But the mobility and the flexibility it's bad. I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also not looking forward to it. Like, I've done a few yoga things in YouTube. And when I say I'm not looking forward to it, I know it's going to be hard, but that's why we're doing this. And for those who are watching this podcast, you're going to get to see some candid video clips. When you're listening to it, you're just gonna have to imagine. But we're gonna be rolling in some B-roll of Brian and I going through the struggle over the next month as two traditionally stiff, 40 plus year old males. So, and so Melissa, I hope you're not regretting choosing to partake as our yoga queen, but we are ready for it.
No regrets. I actually think it's somewhat of a misconception that you have to be flexible to do yoga. And I typically would rather work with someone who puts themselves in the less flexible category, because with some of this flexibility does come strength. And we don't want, I think the misconception with yoga at times is that we're stretching, and you don't want to stretch a muscle just to stretch a muscle. Like tight hamstrings. Tight hamstrings could actually not just be your hamstrings. It could be your calves. It could be your glutes. Like it's the whole posterior chain of the body. And we're going to work over the next 30 days on making improvements in your mobility and flexibility, but in a very functional, non-pretzel-like way, because pushing you. So when you get yourself into your other strength training modalities, that if we overemphasize the flexibility, it's going to create a loss of strength and power in the other things that you're doing. And we want to bring a lot of balance. And it's one thing that I see yoga as a complement for how you live, like just whether you're lifting weights, you're running, all of the things. And the important part that we're also going to pull in is also the mind body connection. And like, if you come onto your mat or you go into the gym overly stressed out, if you go in not having slept well, your nutrition's poor, you actually shouldn't be pushing yourself in a workout, just like you shouldn't be pushing yourself on the mat. And so really tuning in to that mind body connection and what's actually going on can make a huge impact in your mobility and your flexibility. And the thing is, when we look at the mobility and the flexibility, you actually will have greater access to improve strength and power and force in the other things that you're doing, which is I think a huge benefit. But when people go in and really emphasize the flexibility, sometimes we're emphasizing the hypermobility in a joint, which can lead to further injury down the road. So I love working, I think, because it's such an adaptable and accessible practice for everyone that I love that you feel like you're too inflexible to do it. I think it's going to be great.
For sure, yeah, and that's great. I mean, we're starting at rock bottom, we'll call it, right? So only can go up is how we see it. So I guess I want to talk about two things. A misconception that I need to wash from my brain, and I think Brian can share this as well, about yoga, like yoga to me my entire life, and I'm going to be completely candid, and I think there's people that are listeners on the phone that, well, I always looked at yoga when I was, training for Ironman triathlons. It was swim, bike, run, strength. And then my coach was like, do yoga. And I was like, no. I'm like, I'm already doing all these other things. Like, I don't have time for yoga, coach. Like if something's got to give, it's going to be yoga. And I felt it was too, and I'm going to use the word crunchy granola for me, right? I was like, it was too like out there for me. But that was without even giving it a chance, right? Without even giving it peace of mind. It was just my perception of it, and it was a wrong perception. As I see yoga becoming more and more mainstream, and I know other people, other guys that are getting sort of into it, it was somewhat of it in my younger years, a macho thing. Like, I'm not doing yoga, I'm not putting those silly pants on and getting those weird poses. And I sit here today regretting that. So I'm looking forward to, as I've aged and grown and understood what mindfulness meant, understood the importance of breathing and getting in touch with your body. I'm so in tune with that now. I'm like, I can't wait to do this. So it's funny how you turn that corner. And I think for some of the listeners who maybe are in that crunchy granola, I'm going to dismiss this mindset, I'm hoping this changes your mind. And it does that, because I think that's what stops. It's what stopped me. I know it's what stopped Brian, to a certain extent. And I'm hoping that will change. So Brian, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily view it as much of the crunchy granola, but almost more posh or bougie, like it's a soccer mom thing to do. And I didn't feel that it was necessary for me either. So now Melissa and I go back a little bit. So we've known each other 4 or 5 years. We've worked out together. And so my view on yoga changed very much after meeting Melissa, because if, no one probably listens. Well, maybe some people listening have had the pleasure of taking a Melissa class. I'm not sure, but it was very different. So I took a class with Melissa years ago, one of 2 yoga classes I've ever done. And it started out with a different instructor, which was very just kind of calm, relaxing, gentle. It was like listening to coffee house radio, right? And then Melissa followed her up, and then they changed the channel to like 80s rock. So Melissa came on, and it felt so dynamic and so different. And it illustrates Melissa's point too. I think that yoga can be tailored. It is individualistic, and you can manipulate the practice or utilize the practice to suit what it is you're trying to gain from it. It doesn't have to be just flexibility, like Melissa said. So yeah, I definitely avoided it in my life early on because of those reasons we discussed. I just didn't think it was for me. I didn't think that was my thing. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to make it part of my thing now.
Good.
We'll see.
So let's get into the expectations, like kind of what we expect to gain from this briefly, and then let's kick it over to Melissa to talk about what she's got laid out for us.
Cool. Yeah, for me, it is definitely mobility was a big thing. And I know that's not what it's all about. I'm learning now. Like I did think that the main benefit of yoga is to increase flexibility, but I understand what Melissa's saying too, that you don't want to overstretch a muscle and be all about flexibility. There's a delicate balance, like with everything. But I think this is a cool, unique challenge that fits the Change 30 model, because the whole idea, what I understand of Baptiste yoga specifically, is that it's to awaken and empower all humans to live life fully. And that's what Derek and I are trying to do. So improving mobility, reducing the potential for injury as we get a little bit older in life, and we have some aches and pains that are creeping up now. So if we can help reduce our potential for injury, that's fantastic to help us get through everyday life. And like Derek and I talked about on the first podcast, also just having an opportunity to kind of slow things down and kind of go more inward instead of outward. So that's what I'm hoping to gain here. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, I echo nearly everything that you just said, almost to a T. I guess the only other things that I might add to that personally is, I've dealt with some over the last year, and I think it has to do with it's postural related, but just some imbalances that I'm hoping this helps put things back in the right place. Specifically, some things with like my SI joints, shoulder, things like that, or just I've worked on posture, bought a different mattress. It's a daily thing, but the addition of this I hope really helps. And then just overall reduction of not that I live a stressful life at all, but we all have stress just from being busy. Kind of just slowing things down for just like that hour or whatever, just kind of just like notching it down. I love to exercise, so I'm looking forward to trying something new, because I know it's going to be hard. We often have the tendency to do the things that we're good at because we're good at it, right? We do the same things in the gym. We do, and that's where the imbalances come and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, I don't want to do overhead squats again for the 10th straight year because I can't do them. So like, getting in out of our comfort zone. I enjoy the pain and the suffering that comes along with that, oddly. So
Yeah.
That's part of why we're doing this. So with that said, that's kind of our thoughts and what our hopes and maybe expectations, we'll call them, Melissa, are from this. So please tell us the bed of just deliciousness that you have just going to lay in front of us, and how you're going to coach us through these next 4 weeks, these next 30 days.
Yeah, I love everything. Thank you. And I love everything that you guys are looking to get out of it, because that's the really, I think, cool thing about a yoga practice is we have so much. I mean, yoga is a practice of making you better at living. It's really at the heart of it. What we've done in the last, especially over the last 20 years, is we've turned it into stretching, and we've turned it into like circus yoga. And the thing is like, you're speaking to breath and mindfulness and just living life at its fullest. And that's really what the practice is all about. Taking breath as an example is actually, if I don't set up the physical container for you, your breath won't be as efficient, and you'll actually stay in the sympathetic nervous system rather than activating or bringing to the forefront the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we want to access a little bit more in the yoga practice. So what could be missing, like when we're looking at breath as a tool, is the physical container, and we're able to bring all of these things together. And so over the next 30 days, what we're going to do is we're going to build you from, since you guys, and I love, everyone comes to the mat with different perceptions of yoga. Like it's a skinny white girl thing. It's bougie. It's crunchy granola. Like people definitely don't shower before they go. Like any misconception, any misconception, that's how we're getting there. And it's like, I don't care how you get to your mat, because it's for everyone. And what we're going to do, since that's how you're coming to the mat, is we're going to start you with 30-minute practices, I think, for the first 2 weeks. Then we're going to move into a 45-minute. So the first week is 30 minutes. And so it'll be a daily practice. And the great thing, since a big thing, you've got some SI issues, we'll be in constant communication, because the thing with yoga is you can look up alignment for yoga poses online, but it's actually a lot of that. We want to look at it more as functional alignment and how it fits your body and everyone's body very differently, because at the end of the day, like, your skeleton is different. Everyone's skeleton is different, and that's going to make an impact structurally to these poses. So first week will be 30 minutes, then we'll move into a 45-minute practice, so making it a little bit longer, adding on, maybe spending a little bit more time holding poses. And then week 3 and 4, we get to move into full 1-hour practices on the daily. And we'll give you one day off where you have a little bit more restorative. That's that idea of making sure that you're emphasizing recovery as much as the work that we're putting into it. And so we're going to introduce a yoga nidra practice, which is going to have a big impact in your recovery. It can have, depending on the study, 30 minutes of a yoga nidra practice can have the same impact as 3 to 4 hours of deep REM sleep in your central nervous system. So it's got a lot of benefits. So when we talk about the mind-body connection, recovery can make a huge impact. So that will be given to you as an option, and you can play with that. And I know, you've got some other challenges coming up, but as a way to introduce it and just give you an experience as the overall yoga experience. We'll be playing with that. The poses that we're going to put in, it will be a power yoga practice because we're going to emphasize functional strength and flexibility. You know, you don't just want to stretch and open up your hips and this and that without like making sure we're balanced. It's all about the balance of effort and ease, right? And that's one of the things as you're practicing is something that I'll be teaching too, is you can be holding a pose like warrior two, and it can be hard, and that's not bad or wrong because it will be impacting mobility, it'll be impacting strength, but you don't, like, if you're not breathing in that pose, you're over efforting and your central nervous system is going into overdrive. And we need to balance that effort with ease. And all of these principles actually are what you take, it shows up off the mat too. Like if you go back into a weight room, you need to have that balance as well. And, you know, Derek, one of the things that you said about stress is stress actually isn't inherently good or bad. It just is. And your body, like skeleton muscles, they actually need that healthy stress. It's when we stay in those stressed out states, then we run into the issues of chronic disease and other issues. The balance, and so one of the underlying concepts of an asana practice, it's not just the physical poses, it's how you're doing, how you're showing up in these physical poses. And those are some of the things that I hope you guys get to take off of your mat as like daily practices. So we're going to take a look, and the cool thing is we'll have you guys measure. And one thing I want to draw a distinction to is when you practice yoga, much like your work in the gym, is it's not a linear progression. Like we don't constantly, just because you guys are doing this for 30 days, you might not make improvements everywhere, because I've been practicing yoga for probably 25 years. And there are poses that I used to be able to do that I can't do anymore. I can do them. I just can't do the depth of them. And like there's a hip opener called double pigeon, which is I used to be able to go pretty deep into it. But the more that I started squatting and the more my weight went up in what I was squatting, I need more structure. I need more strength in those areas. So I'm not as flexible. And to be honest, I'm okay with that because like, I like the weight that I'm squatting, and I like the integrity with which my yoga practice makes me stronger under certain lifts. So that's sort of, you know, as we are going to look at certain poses to just kind of see what's going on. But with a yoga practice, it's not linear. It's a lot of peaks, valleys, plateaus. So we're going to take a look at a couple poses. We're going to even look at chair pose, which is typically more of a strength building pose, but we'll take a look because we'll see what's going on with thoracic mobility. We're going to look at low lunge, which will speak to what's going on through the front side of the body. We are looking at camel, which is a back bend, and that'll give us some, we'll take a look at shoulder mobility there, a forward fold, because, you know, Brian, you said hamstrings. So we've got a forward fold, and that has to do the whole posterior chain, and also a seated twist. So we're picking these poses, and I'll give direction how to get into each of them so you guys can measure day 1, and then at the end of week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and we'll just see how things progress. So that's sort of the shape of the challenge as it stands right now.
Awesome. I love it. I love the progression from 30 to 45 to an hour. I love the recovery aspect of it. And I love you know, Brian, we talked about this in the first show, which is being able to measure progress, right? Outside of anecdotal, how we feel, which is important, you know, being able to see measurable improvement. And then Brian and I, in addition to that, are also going to be taking a look at some of our sleep patterns, because we have the tools and analytics to be able to look at breathe rate, heart rate variability, you know, resting heart rate, things like that. So super psyched about this. I honestly, I can't wait to get started. Is there anything we need other than a yoga mat in preparation for this, and maybe some Lululemon pants?
I think you definitely need that. Definitely need that.
I'll send you a pair of mine, Derek.
All right, sweet. I can't wait.
A block of some sort or something, block or a strap. So you don't have to get, like, you can use whatever you have in your house. If you have, I don't know, a really thick book or like a pillow, that could operate, or even a water bottle can operate as a.
How about a
I'm
foam
gonna need
roller?
like 6 encyclopedias.
There you go. It's You don't have to go out and buy stuff. A sticky mat works so you're not sliding all over the place. Something to, people tend to think that like, I need all of this stuff for yoga, but actually like the reason that I would want you to use a strap is it can make a pose more accessible if you have shorter, depending on your limb length, right? Shorter arms, longer legs, whatever it just could get you into a certain pose in a more beneficial way when we have either a block and or a strap, so that you can't, here's the thing, your body needs to feel safe. So when you're in a stretch, and this is one thing that we'll speak to when I'm teaching, like if you're in a stretch, different than a strength building exercise, if you're in a stretch and your muscle involuntarily starts shaking, that's not the pain I want you to push through, right? That's actually your body whispering before it takes on an injury, right? So that quivering doesn't mean like you're stretching so hard, it's so good. It's actually like your body's like, please stop. That's not, something is going to snap, or there's going to be an injury, please back out. And so that's actually a physical sensation of feedback that your body's giving you that you want to tune into and not push through. But we're so conditioned as a society, and that like that's actually a comment, and what's that? Pain is weakness leaving the body.
Leaving the body. Yeah.
That's the dumbest quote ever. Like your body is so intelligent. Like think about just like all of the systems of your body that are working right now. Like if you're that much more intelligent, control your heartbeat right now. Like change it. Change the way cortisol is being secreted into your body right now. And so like tuning into that level of injury can only have benefit elsewhere. And so that's using a block and a strap is so important because your body wants to feel safe. In order for us to access greater mobility and flexibility, the body, there's certain things that we need to do to get to that point. So your body needs to feel safe in order to open up. And if it's shaking, right, and that we could go into the science behind it, but that's actually like the muscle and the tendon, they've got nothing left to give. So block and a strap would be ideal. You don't have to go buy one. Something that looks like a block and looks like a towel could be a strap. So those are the things that I'd want you to have. Bolster, roller.
Cool.
Block, strap, Brian encyclopedias, and a towel. And we will make this happen. Well, Melissa, thank you so much. We're going to have you on at the end of this. So we'll be talking to you throughout the entire challenge, obviously communicating as our yoga queen. And then we'll have you on the last part of the show as well to kind of, talk about how we did. So with that said, we're going to sound off, go dust off our yoga mats and get to work. Thanks again.
All right, everybody, we are here for our week 1 completion recap of the 30-day yoga challenge. So Brian, welcome the new flexible Brian Abbale to the week one update. How's it go, Brian?
Much improved. It's going good, Derek. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. All right, so I'm going to pass the ball right to you. We're going to get right into it. So tell me, we've been doing yoga for 30 minutes a day, guided by our friend Melissa. And she sent us an awesome video that we've been doing every single day. When we can find time to do it, we've done it at different times. Tell me how you're feeling, what's been good, what's been not good. Like, give me the general overall scope. Recap it for me.
Yeah. So week 1, I think I was inflexible as expected. So there was really no surprise there. I think the biggest challenge for me, honestly, was the mental side of it. So I got onto the mat and I was trying to like win at yoga. I was trying to beat yoga. So I felt like the deeper into the stretch, the more successful I was. And thankfully, we have the guidance of our yoga queen, Melissa, who has been gracious enough to communicate with us each week. And I thought she had a really good point where she said, to allow for the whole experience of yoga, and basically to explore each moment with presence rather than expectation. Right. So when I kind of got that in my head, like, okay, so what she said, nothing is good, nothing is bad. It just is. So then I backed off, like being so concerned about how deep into each pose I got. And so from a mental standpoint, I think I've improved from day one to day 7 physically and, flexibility wise, mobility wise. I think definitely some improvements, but it's only been a week. So, I mean, I don't know that you can
So
expect a whole lot.
nothing remarkable yet, right?
Nothing remarkable in that regard. I did have a couple strength workouts during the week that I coincidentally felt very good during those. So I could attribute that to yoga. I can't say 100% that that's what it's from, but hey, it went well. And so I certainly can't say yoga negatively impacted my strength. I think also a quote that kept kind of rattling around my head was um, imperfect action beats perfect inaction every day of the week, right? So I've been trying to like, okay, I want to be good at yoga. I want to be the best at yoga, or for like our scheduling purposes, like how am I going to fit this into my schedule? So you're waiting for the perfect time to do it. And there really never is a perfect time. There was one day in particular that was very challenging for me to get it done. The baby was just a maniac all day long. He did not go down to sleep. And so I was just exhausted and just didn't want to do it, quite frankly. But being that you and I were doing it together, of course, there's that commitment there. So I wasn't going to not do it. That wasn't an option. So I got down there and do it. And I realized, like, listen, it's not going to be perfect. It's not the best time in the world to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway, because at least it's some sort of action. And I know you had some experience like that. You had a busy ass week last week, right?
I did. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my yoga experience started while I was away traveling for, we'll call it work/vacation. We're in Siskiyou, Florida. So I'm in some random Airbnb on some dirty carpet. I don't have a yoga mat. I'm using a belt as a strap, which is fine. It worked. And I've got my laptop like propped up on this, coffee table, and it was challenging because we had a very busy schedule, right? We had work, my wife was there. We're trying to schedule some time to be able to enjoy the beach. Whether I did the yoga before I went out to the beach, that seemed to work pretty good. Or before I met with clients. And then I think I did that once. The majority of it was after being with clients on video shoot, or being outside in the sun, maybe having a couple cocktails. That one yoga session was interesting. Not too many cocktails, but it was very relaxed. But it was probably the most challenging part was I was gone all week. I'd done yoga now just once, basically at the end of week 1, at home rested. And that was good. It felt good to be in my own space, but also felt good to have like 6 yoga sessions under my belt, because I felt like I was kind of starting to get it down. But on Friday, we had taken clients out on Thursday evening, went to bed at midnight, was up at 5:45, 13-hour drive in the car back, pick up the kids, feed them, get them all situated. So it was like 9:30 at night on a Friday, and I bet there being 13 hours in the car, and I still hadn't done yoga yet. So you can imagine I was pretty excited about it. But what I found to be interesting, dude, was it was a really good moment of decompression. I actually found myself kind of like relaxed, like, yeah, you'd feel after a good workout. And the other thing that I noticed was the first time that I did it at home rested, I'd done it so many times, maybe same with you. I didn't really need the video.
Right.
I knew all the poses. I knew all the transitions. So I actually didn't even turn on the video. And I just did the poses. Because during her video, there's a lot of times where she's explaining stuff and you're kind of waiting. Right. And I was like, let me skip that and just do the poses longer, more breaths. And I really have found myself, if you haven't done that yet, do it, because I found myself.
I'm going to. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I enjoy it. Less distraction. I enjoyed it. There was more flow, and I could just really focus on breathing. And I'm like, versus listening, am I doing it right? Am I looking at the computer? Like it got to be a bit much. Now I was like a 30-minute yoga master based off what Melissa had sent us. And I was able to just kind of crank through it, man. And it made it really, for the first time, big and enjoyable. And the only reason I don't think it was enjoyable is it's, as we have discussed, as you go through this process of change and doing something new and adding something new to your element, it's like you said, like you got other stuff going on, and like I'll just skip it today. Like if we weren't doing this together, I would have done this much.
There's no way you would have. Yeah, no way. Especially after the 13-hour drive, wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened.
Oh, heck no. No.
Yeah.
And most days coming off the beach, I'm like, screw yoga. Like I wasn't going to do that, but I did it, and it was a commitment. And
I'm curious. You had said you did a yoga session before meeting with a client at one point. Did you feel any different mentally going into that meeting with the client? Any more or less relaxed, or you're pretty much just on when it comes to clients?
I wish I was always on when it comes to certain things, but I did feel a bit more like relaxed and loose. There's something about centering yourself, the breathing, the relaxation. I did feel better. It's funny you mentioned that. I didn't think about that until you just brought it up.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed, and probably the last thing I noticed from week one, was that, I've been nursing this shoulder tendonitis now for a long time. So much so that I was concerned I was going to be able to do this at all. And there were certain poses that were challenging for me because I hadn't used my shoulders in months. And it's not like you just go in the basement and work out one shoulder, right? And it'll be like all lopsided. So just even like warrior, when you hold your arms out, like that was exhausting to me, just holding my arm out. And downward dog was exhausting and still a little bit of discomfort there because it's still kind of working its way out.
Yeah.
But by the end of the week, felt a lot better. There wasn't that lack of strength that my body had already started to respond.
Yeah. And dude, that's so important and, and actually courageous. Like, cause I've known you for a long time and we used to work out together, and like Derek, you used to use the 110-pound dumbbells to do bench press, So, I mean, you were a strong dude. And so like, it's very humbling to go from that to getting down and doing yoga and having a hard time lifting your arms up, but you're still doing it. And that's the point.
You're not just holding it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so crazy. Humbling. Yeah.
Yeah. But
so
you're not,
very humbling.
You got to do it. You have to go through, the thing. You got to go through the thing to get to the other side. So
you do.
That's awesome that you're doing it.
No, and I appreciate that we're doing this together again. I know we said it already, but with these challenges, or really with anything, I think that people take on where they're trying to, invoke change. Well, probably the one biggest takeaway I've learned from the first week is by having an accountability partner or somebody to talk to or to connect with, to hold, my ass to the fire. It's really what's kept me going through the first week. I mean, it has by far.
Yeah. We are soul sisters, as you dubbed us. Soul sisters for life.
For sure.
It's funny. Like, we're on the same team, but you are. I've dubbed you Ivan Drago, and I am Rocky, because you're blonde and I got dark hair.
Blonde hair
also,
thing.
Your gym, absolutely. But your gym and your house is like state of the art. It's so nice. And I got like the cabin in the woods, Rocky gym. I got concrete walls and. Yeah, I could see the rafters and all the wiring and everything coming down. So yeah, I'm definitely Rocky in this.
Dude, I saw in your video, you definitely, and it's funny. That's how my gym looked up until about 2 months ago. It got the COVID makeover, but I used to be down there hanging from the rafters too. Spiders crawling around in the equipment. No, I dig it. I dig it. Exactly. The dirtier, the better. Yep. So, So that's it for me for week one. Yeah, I'm excited to roll into week two. Yeah. Any expectations going into week two? What you're hoping to see?
Yeah, obviously still improved flexibility. That's one of the things I'm after, but I really want to just kind of focus in on the mental side of it. And that's a constant challenge to kind of bring myself back and recenter myself. And I think focusing on the breathing and maybe, like you're saying, trying it without the video on will be key to that. So I'm very much interested in like the mental side of yoga. I didn't give it enough credit.
You'll find that it's a lot easier to get mentally centered when you turn the video off, because it's just you and your body and your breathing.
Dude, yoga nidra, real quick. That was so funny. You called it yoga naptra because you just
yoga
fell asleep.
Naptra. Yeah,
no,
yoga
that was
nidra
incredible. It was a 30-minute session. I was out after like 30 seconds, and I don't even remember the session. I'm sure it was great. But
same.
I was out.
Same. I hope Melissa doesn't find it weird that I might use her voice to take naps in the future, because it's very relaxing. So
I think she would be. I think she'd be appreciative. Yeah.
Yes.
She'd be
so
honored.
Thank you, Melissa. Your voice is hypnotic, and definitely very relaxing. So,
Yes.
Yoga Nidra. I'm anxious. I can't wait for Yoga Nidra this coming Sunday. That's
Same.
the best Nidra. That's the best yoga because you just lay on your back and take a nap.
So easy. I can hit that
yeah.
pose all day long.
Yeah. Next challenge is just do Yoga Nidra every day. I think that should be the next challenge.
There's probably a lot of health benefits to taking a 30-minute nap every day. So
There
that's
probably
something we
is.
could think about. Super thrilling on the video side too, I'm sure.
Right. Exactly. Here, watch my nap. It was awesome.
Yeah.
See how my leg twitched? It was great.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to roll on to week 2 now.
Very good.
Week 2 yoga in the books. Got Brian back on the mic here. Brian, how you feeling?
Feeling good like Gumby, Derek. How you doing?
Doing good, man. So tell me about your week 2 experience, what you learned, how you improved, how you failed. What was your biggest takeaway?
Oh man, biggest takeaway. So, well, I think it's been a progression from week 1, where I started out in my dingy, dirty basement doing yoga, watching the video, trying to follow along, figure out what the heck I was doing, trying to I think I said this before, like trying to beat yoga, like get as deep into the poses as I possibly could, and I've come a long way since then. So I think I've improved as a yogi. I actually did a couple sessions in my bedroom at night with like the lights down, and I've got like an ambient diffuser. It has ambient light, and it's a diffuser that diffuses essential oils. So I had that cranking. I had a yoga flow playlist going, and I just really was able to get into it. And weirdly, like I feel like I got into much better positions. Like Melissa talks about the balance of effort and ease, and I think I found that where like I was at the right spot where I was feeling it, but at the same time it was also a little bit relaxing. And I think one other thing for me too that I found, I may have found a place for yoga in my life here, and it happened. I can't remember which day of the week it was. I think it was a Wednesday or Thursday, and I went to a metabolic class, which is a local gym in my area. It's basically like they don't like when you call it HIIT training, but it's basically high intensity interval training. No offense to them, but just so everyone kind of has an idea, it is intense, and like it's the type of workout that makes you question your life decisions when you're in there. So like it was soul crushing. I got my ass whooped, and
Awesome.
normally, yes. So I did that at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then I followed that up at about 7:30 at night with yoga. And normally I would be sore, like difficult getting up and down out of a chair, up and down the stairs. That would be a challenge with the type of workout that was. And I'm telling you, man, like I was not even sore the next day. I felt like I didn't ever even worked out. I could go do it again, no problem. So I'm wondering if there's like a recovery aspect of yoga. So if you really do a high intensity type resistance training workout, I think yoga can complement that quite nicely. At least that was my experience. So,
yeah, I mean it's funny because the yoga is it seems like it involves a lot of stretches that you traditionally sort of put in the bucket of static stretching, right? Which is something that we typically do at the end of a workout, right? Not at the beginning of the workout.
100%.
And you're holding these poses for a long time. You're breathing, you're relaxing. You got your yoga Zen playlist going, some essential oils, and all that. All I think obviously played a role. But I mean, honestly, it is what it is for you, right? It's going to be something different for everybody else, but I mean, that sounds pretty compelling to me that you could be throwing on the old yoga pants and dimming the lights in the bedroom. Your wife's thinking maybe something different is going down, but you're like, sorry, honey, it's yoga time.
She always thinks that when I wear my yoga pants. Oh no.
That's weird. Funny.
That's weird. Yeah. Funny how that works.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you had a good experience. Did I know we did week 2 of a half hour. This week, going into week 3, we're going to be transitioning to 45 minutes, which, doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a 50% increase upon, what we've been doing. So, I mean, it's pretty sizable amount. I think my, biggest challenge, as I'm sure it is with you, is making the time to do it, right? With busy family, work life, family life, other training that we want to do. It's like, how do we kind of fit this in? It's just, for me, it's 30 less minutes of mindless television that I probably shouldn't be watching anyway at night. Right. So that's something I do a lot of, but now it's almost none.
Yeah. I think if you walked around with a stopwatch all day, and like, if you could do this, like click that stopwatch when you're doing something unproductive, and it's like start to finish, when you wake up to when you go to bed, there's probably quite a lot of time on there. So it's just a matter of like organizing that time to fit certain things in, you know.
It's
It's not
making it-
easy. It's not easy, but you can
No,
do
it's
it.
not. It's making it a priority, but
Right.
you're seeing benefit. And same with me, you know, for me, week 2 was, I was home. I had an opportunity to do this in the comfort of my own home, my own space. I was able to play music. Now I didn't go with the Yoga Zen playlist. I went with some Bob
What'd you
Marley.
hit?
I had
Oh,
some Bob Marley. Yeah. I went with a little
yeah.
bit of kind of reggae vibe. I felt that was kind of in the
Rocking
yoga
the
space.
ganj.
Yeah, exactly. I was lighting the pipe over in the corner, getting into downward dog. Just kidding to the listeners. Just kidding.
Of course.
And it was great. It was great to be at home. It was great to be in my space. I was able to and I think I just started doing this at the end of week 1. I was able to do it without the video. So just me,
Yeah.
the music, my breath, just kind of feeling the room, just feeling my breathing, really starting to connect with it, and being able to hold those poses for a long time, not hold them just until Melissa would start talking again, right? Because that's what I was doing before.
Right.
So, and I was doing it, as you said, that balance of effort and ease. So it was good for me. I'm still, nursing this shoulder situation, and it most of the poses, almost all of them, Melissa's done a great job of creating a program where it doesn't put a ton of stress on it. It's felt fine. And I feel like, again, the strength is progressing in that shoulder as it continued to do the exercises. So it's been good, man. I think week 2, I definitely give it a thumbs up. It was an improvement upon week 1. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I'm curious, like with your shoulder and your knee too, do you think is yoga kind of a net neutral impact to that? You feel it's not making it any better, any worse, or is it one or the other?
Right now, I'd say it's net neutral.
Mhm.
For those listening, I mean, you probably think I'm a hot mess, but I also had
You are.
an old an old meniscus tear, and for whatever reason, it blew up this week, and actually to the point where I could only bend it to 90 degrees, which made some of the yoga poses a little bit of a challenge. I've since then had a big fat long needle put in my knee, and they extracted that juice out, and now I can bend it like a dream. The odd thing is it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
at all. So I'm grateful for that.
That's good. Yeah.
And I can get into some of those other poses a little bit deeper, and be able to put my pants on easier in the morning too, which I'm greatly looking forward
It's a
to.
plus.
Always a plus. Although these days I don't wear a lot of pants just because of these Zoom meetings,
Everything's
the
on Zoom.
society we world. Yeah, I'm not wearing any right now.
It's the mullet outfit basically. They got all business up top, but party down below.
Party downstairs, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a net neutral so far. I'd say maybe a net positive on the shoulder in terms of strength. The mobility isn't quite there yet, but I'm hoping with week 3 with some additional focus. I really feel that when it comes to sparring change, it's like week 1, it's like just figuring things out. Week 2, you're finally finding a groove. Week 3, I think you start. I'm predicting or hoping we hit a stride. By week 4, we're yoga champions. I don't know if you're on the same page there. So what are you looking
Yeah.
forward to going into week 3?
I think just further improvements and progression. I think it's going to be like 1 step back and 2 steps forward, because we're going to get a new program for the 45 minutes. So we're going to have some new poses that we're going to kind of have to get some familiarity with. So I think once that takes place, though, I mean, if 30 is good, 45's got to be better, right? So,
More is always better, isn't it?
more is always better, definitely. Yeah, no, I think I'm excited to get the extra 15 minutes and try some new poses, and see where that takes us.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to week 3, brother, and let's get it on. 45 minutes of yoga.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Boom.
What's up, people? Week 3, yoga transformation before your very eyes. Those who are watching on video, you get a special little treat. You can see our Zen focus.
Hey.
It's in full effect. Brian rocking.
Transformation is almost complete.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Brian is rocking a pretty sweet hat right now. That's a nice little purchase he got on his trip that he's on the road right now doing a little road yoga.
It was speaking to me. It was just calling my name. I had to have it.
Are you wearing it during your yoga sessions is the question.
Well, I got to be honest. I just purchased it today, but I will be wearing it during my yoga sessions. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Sure. Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, week 3, here we go. Recap. Talk to me, B. What do we got? What do we got? How you feeling?
Dude,
Now,
week
week
three was nuts, right?
Mhm.
We had a switch, right? We went from the 30-minute video to the 45, and
We did?
it was like the 30-minute video. I felt like a rookie sensation. I was getting it, and I felt like I was lighting it up. And now I'm
Yeah,
in the
you're crushing it.
sophomore slump. The 45-minute
Yes.
video is a super reality check. Like
It
much
really
much more
was.
challenging. Much more challenging. I think I was not paying yoga its due respect. So it was.
I can concur
gut
with that,
check.
brother. It was definitely when I first like sort of fast forwarded through the video, just quick,
Mhm.
like just because I was curious. I was like, oh, okay, I think we did that. That doesn't look too hard, and I must have skipped some stuff because when I actually sat there and pressed play, I was like, shit, like this is
Yeah.
hard. And she moved a lot faster. There was less explanation
Yes.
because we were allegedly supposed to know what we're doing. And
Yeah, we were
as
masters.
we went from super beginners to I don't even know what you'd call that. I certainly it's probably not even close to advanced, but it certainly felt
Yeah.
like it. How did you
Infant
feel
stages.
as you got through the week and you went, deeper into the week? Did
Yeah,
you feel some improvement?
better for sure. Yeah, like it's funny because you had told me off air here. You told me that you watched the video, the 45-minute video, and you're like, yeah, it looks like a lot of the same movements, a couple new ones and everything. So I kind of went into it thinking this shouldn't be so bad, just like you said. Then I played the video, and as I went through, and some of the hip openers were just an experience that I wasn't ready for. Like the one where you gotta like almost tie yourself in a knot, your legs,
Yeah,
and you grab your
I
ankle, like each ankle with the opposite hand, and pull them apart. It was, I can't explain it on
I had to
podcast here,
watch
but
it. I had to watch it 3 times to try to
oh
figure
my
out what
goodness.
she actually meant. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You can see now why these instructors and guides spend thousands of hours kind of becoming masters in this craft. It's not something you learn in a month. You can improve for sure, but you do not master yoga in a month. I can
no,
confidently
you
say that now after this video.
you definitely don't. I think we're going to find that we exit week 4 still in beginner mode, but
Oh, for sure.
much improved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess my expectation never really was to be an expert. Well, maybe a little
No.
bit it was, but that's a little bit of an aggressive mindset going into it.
Hmm.
Because when I thought of yoga, I was like, how hard can this be, right?
Right. You think
We
it's
out here.
stretching. I can
It's
stretch.
just it's just stretching. So we're finding out that it's definitely a lot harder than I thought. And I would
Yeah.
rather, heavy deadlift and do all those things, and probably because we're comfortable with them, but
Right.
they seem easier to lift hundreds of pounds than to stretch myself into what felt like a pretzel.
Right. I think that's where so there's the two parts of yoga. There's the physical side and then the mental side. And I've been trying to work on the mental side in addition. But so it makes me think like as difficult as it is, and it is super challenging, that's all the more reason why I feel I need to keep doing it because I'm not good at it. So the fact that I'm not good at it tells me keep going. You're on the right track. Just keep doing it. Can't just do stuff
Exactly.
that's easy. There's no growth there.
There's zero growth there, and that's why we're
Yeah.
doing this. And yeah,
Right.
I'm feeling here at the end of week 3 that it's very clear to me that I'm seeing a benefit from it.
Hmm.
For those who listen to the week 1, I was having I was on the road and all these other things. I was having these SI joint sort of issues where I was like going to a chiropractor, taking Advil, like it was a real problem. It was causing sciatica type pain and everything. So it was the movements. I couldn't tell if they were aggravating it
Hmm.
or if they were helping it. So I just
Yeah.
pushed through it. That's just how I roll. And I find now, weeks later, all that discomfort, that pain, all that stuff, and honestly, in that area, went away. Doesn't hurt.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was weird. It felt like they like worked out areas that that never saw attention, which
Yeah.
pretty obvious what's going on there.
Sure.
So the body responded, adapted, and now that feels great. That feels completely fine. Feels completely balanced. And it's funny, even if I feel just like a slight little twinge, I felt it like maybe twice where I'm just like, oh, okay, is it creeping back? What's up?
Hmm.
I just boom, I hit the floor, downward dog it like a champ. And
Yes.
it helps. It's weird. It helps. So I've
That's
actually
so
one
you do
day I did
that
yoga twice.
outside of your session, you mean? Like just if you're
Yeah.
in everyday life and you feel a little twinge, you'll hit the
Yeah.
downward dog and work it out.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
I'll
great.
do. Yeah, it's helped. So, so far so good. Week 3 in, I'm pretty pumped. I'm
Yeah.
actually looking forward. We're going to week 4. We had originally discussed doing an hour of yoga, and
Mhm.
after realizing that 45 minutes was something that was going to take us weeks to master, even doing it every day,
Yeah.
we've decided to stick to 45 minutes
You got
versus
to
putting
crawl before you
ourselves.
can walk. It's not
Agreed.
something that you want to go. It's like going from a couch to a marathon. You don't want to do that. We're
Yep.
still in the 5K phase, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
of our training.
walking half of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Walk, run.
yeah,
Yep.
yes. So yeah, I'm pumped. What are your expectations going into week 4?
Oh my goodness. I've actually learned to not have any. I'm just gonna let it come to me. I'm gonna get on the mat, see what feels good, see if anything changes in certain poses that I've found quite challenging, which there were plenty of, and just roll with it. I think that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
How about
same.
you?
Same. I mean, well said. I think I've definitely noticed the days that I do yoga, like at the end of the day when I'm gassed and tired, I'm just sliding it in there. Depending on the stress level of that day, I notice how easy or not easy it is, and it's never
Yep.
easy, but the ease by which. But either way, whether it's challenging when I start or maybe a little bit easier because I'm feeling a little bit more limber, um, at the end, I always feel better. I just feel
Yes.
better. And so I'm still trying to figure out like when I'll be sort of slinking this into my day
Right.
on a regular basis, but it's I'm hoping to work that out next week
Yeah.
is when that will be.
I'm glad you said that about like just the mentally feeling better after doing it, even during it. But I think it's important also, like, for me, having Melissa kind of guiding us through it is very helpful. She's almost like a therapist on the mat too. That kind of serves as the mental side of it.
For
Because if
sure.
I'm just on the mat in my own head, for me personally, sometimes that can be a scary scary place. So it's nice to kind of have her kind of that voice in your ear, at least just watching it the first couple times. I did do the last 2 days without the video. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to memorize all the patterns, but I did kind of, I might have missed one or two. Not intentional. I'm sure I didn't skip over the hard ones. No way.
No, would never do
No,
that.
but you know, but even in certain holds, when I'm not playing the video, I still hear her voice kind of reminding me of certain cues and certain check-ins and just, yeah, certain mentalities to take on the mat with me. And that's
Love it.
super helpful.
Week 4, here we come, baby.
You, let's get it.
Let's do it.
Deuces. All right, we're back to close out yoga challenge number 1. So I'm here with Derek and our yoga queen, Melissa. She's joining us again so graciously. So we're going to kind of wrap this up and talk about where we saw the greatest impacts, where we maybe struggled a little bit, and kind of put a bow on this thing. So Derek, you want to kick it off with where?
Yeah, Melissa, first, I want you to just chime in on how you think we look. Do we look any different than when we first started the challenge? Do you see any change in us whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, you look like totally and completely enlightened beings. It's like you found, the state of bliss. It's, basically what everybody is trying to go for on their yoga mat. And it looks like you guys nailed it. So yeah, dramatic
I'm
difference.
I'm so zen right now. I didn't even realize like that we look any. This is just what I look like now. I just
Yeah,
didn't
this is
even realize it.
just how I
Yeah,
roll. Yeah, for
So
the
It's
I'm
the
very
new
much at peace.
thing.
for those who are not watching the video right now, Brian is wearing some sort of very
Rastafarian hat.
Rastafarian hat and some shades. And I to try to keep up with him, I put on my amber glasses that are actually those glasses you use to stop blue light. And then I took a scarf from my wife's closet and put on a very peach colored shirt. So we look like idiots, but we're trying to demonstrate to Melissa that we definitely are looser, more zen, more in touch, thanks to her and in the yoga experience. So,
But maybe we should take the opportunity to dispel the rumor that like this is what yoga looks like. It's not. I could say in my time in the fitness industry and the world of business, people do yoga from all different backgrounds. So you got attorneys, you got athletes, you got teenagers, and anyone can do it. This is obviously we're just poking fun and it's a joke, but it's very relatable to all types of people.
100% agree. So.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm sure Melissa, you can attest, given that you have I would imagine a myriad of different clients that you coach on a daily basis.
Oh yeah. I mean, it really is. It's really a practice for everyone, for any walk of life, and it can be done inside a yoga studio, in schools, in a gym, really anywhere. So it benefits everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, for us, Brian, I guess I'll chime in here in terms of benefits. For me, wrapping up week 4 was really I finally felt that I was finding my groove. Week 1 kind of stunk. If you remember, I was away and doing it remotely, so I was dealing with suntan lotion, and it was in some random Airbnb, and moving furniture around to make it happen, but made it happen. Then got home, found my spot, found my groove in week 2. And then I was like, oh, I got this. This is no problem. Then Melissa had to bring upon phase 2, where it got a lot more challenging. The poses and the transitions and all of that. So I felt like I went right back to the beginning again. But that's part of your journey. That's part of your growth is to continue to push the envelope and continue to progress. So I felt comfortable through the progression, and then it went back to, okay, now I'm learning some new stuff. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I don't know about you, Brian, but I kind of felt again like I was back, like it was week 2 again, found my groove. And really the thing with yoga that I noticed that makes it most comfortable is when I could understand and remember the poses, and I didn't have to look down at the video, and I could just flow with it. I could put on my Rastafarian music or whatever I was listening to, and just kind of get into the flow and enjoy it, concentrate on my breathing versus like holding my breath and turning my head and looking at the video. And it was so awkward so many times, and I'd have to stop and rewind it. But that's part of it. That's what you're going to go through as you're learning. But now I feel like, I could slap a mat out in my front yard and just start ripping off some poses. So that was my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was similar, Derek. It's kind of funny because like you just think of yoga as stretching, and you think, well, I can do that. That shouldn't be hard. It's like golf. Like everyone thinks they should be good at golf. It's just whack. The ball's not even moving. It's sitting there. I can just go whack it. But there's so much more to it. There is a technical aspect to it, flowing from one pose to the other. It's unreasonable to expect that you would just step into yoga and just be like really great at it, right out of the gate. So it's certainly a progression, and still very novice. The 30 days has been great, and I do feel like I've progressed, but still very, very elementary level that I'm at. Where I saw the greatest impact, and Melissa, we kind of communicated throughout, because I know you were trying to kind of talk to me about the mental and spiritual component to it, which I definitely appreciated. I happen to see more of the impact from more of a physical perspective. So like performance wise, some of the workouts that I do, high intensity training, some of the exercises, like take a pike push up, for example, where pike push up, you want to be looking like a triangle. Your hands and your feet are close together, and you bring your head to the ground. Prior to doing yoga, my hamstrings and shoulder mobility were so poor that I was flat. So I was really hitting my chest more than the intended muscle group, and being the shoulder. So after doing this for a few weeks, I was able to get my feet closer to my hands, get my head through my hands more, and actually hit the shoulders. And that was just one exercise. I did notice that with several other exercises, that I was able to get into proper alignment, which it just spills over and helps the workout. So that was excellent. And then also from a recovery standpoint, I noticed on the days that I did do those high intensity trainings, and I would do the yoga session that evening, where I would normally be very sore the next day from the soul crushing workout, I found it was much more manageable. So I didn't change anything in my routine, and I'm a very routine oriented guy. I didn't change anything other than adding the yoga. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. But I would say that I struggled probably mostly with the mental, spiritual side of it. I had a hard time shaking the expectation and just being, just being in the moment, in the pose, accepting it for what it is. My mind doesn't always work that way. So I kind of tended to try to fight the pose a little bit more than embrace it. But that's something that certainly I think will come with time. So that was my experience with it. I had a couple. Oh, go ahead, Derek.
You wanted to beat yoga. I remember at one point that was.
I didn't though.
Yoga beat you.
Yes. Yoga won, Brian none.
So Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off. It sounded like you had a couple questions for Melissa.
Yeah, I was going to ask a couple quick questions, if I may. I'm just going to ask them both, Melissa, and then I'll let you just respond to the two of them. So, obviously, Derek and I, we did every day yoga for 30 days straight, either 30 or 45 minutes. So I'm curious, as I'm getting a little older, into my 40s now, I'm kind of focusing more on like the minimal effective dose of things. So, curious what you believe the minimum effective dose is for those of us who don't have the time to do it every day, or maybe don't have 30 to 45 minutes. Is it effective if you do it once, twice, 3 times a week, 10, 15, 20 minutes? Like, how would you see people kind of getting into that? And then question number 2, I would say, so we had access to Melissa, who's amazing. You were instrumental in walking us through the whole program. If we had questions, we could shoot you a text, we could call you, email you. So we were very fortunate to have such an experienced coach and mentor. I think Derek would agree with that for sure. And I think that's so important. Like a great job can be ruined with a bad boss. A great workout program can be sabotaged by having a bad trainer who's not teaching proper form and loading you correctly, and proper rep counts and all that. So my next question is, how would you recommend someone that's just starting out, how would you recommend they approach finding the right program or instructor? Some might do better in a group setting. Some might do better on their own with like an online or an app program. I want people to kind of know how they can navigate that so they don't unfairly judge the discipline of yoga because of maybe a bad or a less than ideal program or instructor.
Well, the second part of that question is pretty loaded, and I'm actually excited to field that one. As far as like the optimal amount of yoga, I do think you can, especially if you're doing other strength training modalities. I think even if it's 3 times a week, like I lift every day, and really the end of my workout will be dedicated to doing select yoga poses that basically stretch out the muscle group that I trained that day. And so it usually won't take me any more than 15 to 20 minutes. I don't have a ton of time to do an hour practice X number of times a week. So it really, I think, is what you can fit into your schedule. And I think even if you did a 20-minute or a 30-minute just a set series of poses that worked for your body on that day, I think you will get the benefits. And even incorporating some of the breathing practices, because that, the breath would have a direct positive effect on what you're doing, obviously, in your other workouts. So I think that it's easy to incorporate little bits on a regular basis versus like, I go to yoga once a week for 60 minutes. I think it's a little bit more beneficial to even do a 15, 20-minute practice a couple times a week than just like 60 minutes once a week. So the second part of that is, it depends. It really is, I think, dependent upon the individual. If you know that you're a little bit intimidated to walk into a yoga studio, it's beneficial to find an instructor and maybe set up a private ahead of time so you can just kind of run through things. But you can also jump into a class at any point in time. Lots of online resources. I think the issue, though, with the yoga industry as well as the fitness industry is we're pretty unregulated. And since we're dealing, a lot of times people are like, yoga, it's this ancient practice. Yeah, well, these poses are also only about 100 years old. And we're dealing with movement of the body. And so for yoga instructors not to have any kind of connection to biomechanics, current exercise science research and data and and anatomy is a disservice. And I think you really, once you get into class, and if it sounds like the yoga instructor is giving physical cues that don't make sense, it's time to find a new yoga instructor. Stuff like shine your heart. Like, what does that really mean? And like, what are we asking, what does that have to do with anything? Bring your feet together in order to stand all the way up. Well, if your skeleton is more stable with your feet hips width apart, then why are we having us do that on the yoga mat? So it's a loaded question. I could do all that. That's I could go down that rabbit hole very quickly, but to find resources, I think you just have to get to know your instructor. There are lots of amazing studios, a lot of online apps, videos, and a lot of gyms are actually offering, yoga as a part of their classes. So I think the most important part is start to get to know your instructor and get a sense of what they know about the body. And if it doesn't seem like they know a lot, then find a new one.
Are there any like accreditations you could look for in someone's bio, or not? Not really. It's more just getting to know them on a personal level if you can.
So Yoga Alliance is the industry quote unquote standard. And so we have 200 hour and 500 hour designations. Obviously 500 hour people have studied and spent a little bit more time than your 200 hour. That's kind of the bare minimum. I think it's also nice for a yoga instructor to have some additional certifications, just in terms of like maybe they're personal trainers, or maybe they've got like a strength training connection. I do think that's a nice compliment to have, so that it shows that like they know body movement. So yeah, that's kind of the industry standard. If they don't have a certification, then I would look elsewhere for sure.
Awesome.
No.
So I've got two final questions, one for Brian and one for Melissa. Brian, will you continue to make yoga part of your life now, having done it every single day for 30 days straight? And if so, how do you foresee it being part of your life or not part of your life?
I will absolutely continue to make yoga part of my life. I can probably say with confidence that I will not do yoga every day. I was happy that Melissa had the response she did with like the minimal effective dose. So I could absolutely see myself doing it a few times a week. I kind of have developed a 15-minute practice on my own, kind of modifying some of the programming that Melissa provided to us. So yeah, definitely. I think probably 3 to 4 times a week, 15 to 20 minutes. Just with the performance and recovery improvements that I saw, I'd be crazy not to continue it.
Awesome. Yeah, same here. I will absolutely. Will I be doing it every day? No. But I mean, I stretch pretty much every day, using the Theragun or the foam roller or whatnot. So I think I will be doing some form of a yoga stretch. Will be a routine, so to speak. Probably not, but I do see, like you, Brian, 3 times a week, and hearing Melissa say that she incorporates it at the end of a strength training session, that just makes a lot of sense to me, right? You're shortening the muscle. Let's elongate it back. I can see that as I age, Brian, as we get old, it definitely, things just start to hurt a little bit more. And where I used to not have to warm up and just jump into a set and work out and then just go home and not stretch. I can't do that anymore. It kind of sucks, but but things like this are really gonna help. So Melissa, I honestly, I can speak for both of us, it's with incredible gratitude that we thank you for guiding us through this month of yoga bliss. Final question. All right, so Melissa, I asked this question of everybody at the end of every podcast that we do, and I'll have you relate it to yoga naturally. So the question is, if you spoke at the beginning of the podcast when we first started, you spoke at the end, you've heard of our experiences we went through, you coached us through it. If people forgot everything, they forgot every single thing that you said and we said, except they remember one thing that they could take with them as they go into their yoga journey, that you think would give them the best experience and help them be good at yoga, what would that one thing be?
I think the one thing is that yoga really, as much as we get into it to like kind of like Brian did, I'm gonna beat yoga. I think everybody comes with goals, they come with expectations, but really at the heart of what the practice is it really is meant to give you tools, whatever those tools you need to better navigate the challenges of being a human being. And it is, if you approach it with really looking to balance the effort and the ease, it has a lot of different positive aspects that it can offer. If you're looking just for the aesthetic value of the pose, then it will limit what's available through the practice. But like the tools are all there to help you navigate being a human, which these days can be somewhat challenging. And it's a really great practice, and you just have to, just kind of meet it where it meets you. And I don't want to say go with the flow, because that sounds so yoga, but like, yeah, go with the flow.
Awesome. Go with the flow.
Excellent.
I love it.
Yep.
Thank you again, Melissa. We really, really appreciate it. Melissa, actually, one other question that I failed to ask. If people want to reach out to you to contact you for some coaching, some guidance, some consulting, how do they get in contact with you?
Great question. I do have a website, and I have an Instagram page. Probably Instagram's the best way. Instagram is Movement with Melissa, and I actually think my website's the same one, movementwithmelissa.com. So both are great ways to reach out. And yeah, I do coaching, and I do a lot of different workshops and that kind of thing.
Awesome. We'll put those in the show notes so people can get in contact with Melissa. I highly recommend her because without her, we would have lasted about 2 days, maybe 3.
5 minutes.
Actually, you're right.
Melissa,
Probably would have made it to the first
best.
session.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Adapt You podcast today. Our goal with this show and all of our content is to deliver you the guests and the respective knowledge necessary to help you change something in your life. Everyone who listens to this show has something they want to affect and something they want to change. And our goal is to help give you the knowledge necessary to take you down that path on becoming the absolute best version of yourself. If you like what you heard today, please tune in to all of our shows and also check us out in social media. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, and check out our website and have some great content on there as well. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next show.